Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We are just 11 days from the federal election, and things are heating up after a lively debate between federal leaders last night in French. Tonight, voters will have another chance to see the leaders face off in English. And it's not just the federal leaders squaring off. Here in the North, candidates are sharing their ideas at forums and debates as we get closer to that big day. We will hear from the Yukon's candidates shortly. But first, Julia Wong sets up tonight's federal leader debate.
Hours before taking the debate stage, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh made the rounds at a Montreal market, talking with shoppers.
We got dental care and pharmacare done.
And making sure to buy Canadian.
First of all, these are made in Quebec, so that's good.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet opted for a more low-key day, doing debate prep. Stopping by a Montreal institution for smoked meat, Liberal leader Mark Carney posed for photos, signed autographs, and chimed in on the Debates Commission, which organizes the leaders' debates.
I think there's value in the having an independent body that sets the rules for the debate and prosecutes them. I think some of the decisions I'm sure will be called into question, but I don't think it's for the political leaders to be making those determinations.
The commission facing controversy after it kicked the Green Party out of the debate last minute for not running enough candidates.
Victoria Humphrey with Rebel News.
It's also under the microscope because far-right media dominated questions at a post-debate news conference.
Well, yesterday, Rebel News was allowed by the commission.
All that top of mind for the Greens as it released its campaign platform. Its co-leader is calling for major changes.
I think that the only reasonable and honorable thing for the commission to do would be to resign.
Regardless, it's full steam ahead for the debate, and viewers can expect a fulsome discussion, says the moderator.
We will have more in-depth conversation tonight. We'll let it play out. And I'm going to feel no obligation to cut people off after 10 seconds before they get a chance to make their points. We're going to let it breathe a bit.
After the debate, the pace will start to pick up for all parties. Advanced voting across the country starts this Friday. Julia Wong, CBC News, Ottawa.
The CBC News fact-checking team watched the French language debate closely. Jonathan Gatehouse looks at how the truth and the claims stacked up.
There were a lot of figures being thrown around during this debate, and one that may have made viewers sit up and take notice was about Canada's future population. Here's what Pierre Poilievre had to say.
And I also have to say that I reject the Century Initiative, which is a Liberal policy to balloon Canada's population to 100 million people. That's extreme.
So, do the Liberals have a plan to increase Canada's population to 100 million? The short answer is no. That number comes from a 2019 report from a nonprofit group called the Century Initiative, who are arguing that Canada needs to hit the 100 million mark by the year 2100 in order to supercharge the economy. It's not a Liberal policy. Carney has attended Century Initiative events in the past, and he recently appointed the group's co-founder to his Council of Advisors on Canada-US relations. But Carney has never indicated that he supports the 100 million figure. Then there was a sharper exchange between Jagmeet Singh and Pierre Poilievre on the subject of affordable housing and the Conservative leader's record when he was in Stephen Harper's cabinet. Here's a clip.
He only built 6 homes
200,000
when he was in power.
Can I answer?
We know the answer.
Can
it's
I
6.
answer? It was 200,000 that year, and the cost of the average home was $450,000. So thanks very much for reminding everyone of my record. It was a good record.
Both the Liberals and the NDP have attacked Poilievre's record as housing minister. First thing, he never was. The Conservatives didn't have a named housing minister. Poilievre was Minister of Employment and Social Development, where he oversaw the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. The 6 houses refers to the number of nonprofit or community housing units that were built in the 2015-16 fiscal year. But that ignores the ones that the CMHC built in partnership with the provinces or territories. If you count those in, the number is closer to 4,200. Poilievre's counterclaim isn't accurate either. His 200,000 number refers to the total housing units built in 2015. That includes detached homes, condos, and apartments. Only a fraction of those would have been classified as affordable or have had anything to do with the government in Ottawa. Finally, Yves-François Blanchet, the leader of the Bloc Québécois, usually takes center stage in the French language debate, and he made a claim about Mark Carney's position on pipelines. Here's what the Bloc leader said.
Mid-February, British Columbia. You, like all other Canadian leaders, said something in English that was, if necessary, you would use the executive emergency powers. You said it. I heard it again yesterday. You would force pipelines through Canada and through Quebec.
No.
Carney has talked about creating energy corridors for things like pipelines, railways and power lines, all sorts of energy infrastructure, and so has Pierre Poilievre for that matter. But the new Liberal leader has not said that he would force them through Quebec or any other province. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Toronto.
Ahead of tonight's English debate, CBC asked people in Iqaluit what commitments they want from the four party leaders. Take a listen.
To help us who are disabled, homeless, and unemployed, and no home.
The debate, hopefully, concerning cost and finance and support for the needy.
To have a better life, at least to get a home. We're from the north, and they're on our land, so-called our land. Nunavut translated to English, it's called our land. It's obviously our land, and why don't we have a home?
Sorry about that, folks, but you could hear at least what Nunavut in Iqaluit thought and wanted to hear from the four leaders that you see on your screen. And you can watch the federal leaders' English debate at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It will be broadcast live on CBC TV, CBC News Network, and everywhere you stream CBC News. In Whitehorse, there was another candidates forum last night, this one hosted by the Council of Yukon First Nations and the Assembly of First Nations Yukon. It focused on Yukon First Nations issues. There was time for audience questions, and one question was requested multiple times. Here's how the exchange unfolded.
The opioid crisis is severely impacting the Yukon, with several communities under a state of emergency due to overwhelming numbers of overdose and death. What would your party do? What would you and your party do to address this persistent issue? And again, we're going to start with Gabrielle Dupont. Go ahead, Gabrielle.
So we already have many tools in our toolbox, but if there is one thing that we can certainly improve is to make sure that we do have enough treatment for everyone, and enough treatment spot, bed for everyone, and make sure we do have the funding to increase our capacity. And another important point on treatment is that we do need to make sure that treatment is available in communities, because this is where people have their support network, and we already know that people are quite vulnerable, and this is a very bad idea to either concentrate them in Whitehorse or anywhere else, and so. Let's work on getting more treatment in communities, and this could be healing camp, healing center, but
Thank you.
treatment.
Thank you. We will go next to Catherine McCallum. Go ahead, Catherine.
Thank you. I would like to recognize the over 100 Yukoners that we have lost to the toxic drug crisis since it began in 2016. I know that this crisis continues to impact the lives of so many Yukoners and has spread grief and loss across the territory. These people were loved, their lives were meaningful, and each of them is deeply missed. People who use drugs deserve compassion, dignity, and equitable access to health care and supports. That means providing access to free, high-quality, culturally safe, evidence-based treatment for everyone when they are ready, increasing access to detox services so people are not turned away, providing aftercare supports and sober housing to people leaving treatment, increasing mental health supports, getting people out of shelters and into homes, increasing supports for people who are currently using drugs, protecting supervised consumption sites, safe supply, and other harm reduction efforts from cuts. These services provide care, community, and dignity, and they save lives.
Thank you. We will go next to Ryan Leaf. Go ahead, Ryan.
When we hear about the numbers of Yukoners that are dying to the opioid crisis, in particular in a specified time period, we have to ask ourselves what has changed. What's changed is an affordability crisis that's driven Yukoners into despair and depression. It's exacerbated mental health challenges. It's exacerbated people's stress levels and their outreach for the substance abuse that has tremendous impact on the smallest of our communities. It is out of control. Our government's going to commit to making available 50,000 spaces for treatment. Compassion is bringing Yukoners home, treating them, helping them through culturally appropriate, Yukon-guided solutions. But there's another equation to this, and it's enforcement. There are people bringing these drugs into our territory. Our cities are changing dramatically, and we need to put an end to the people bringing the drugs into Yukon communities.
Thank you. And then we'll go next to Brendan Henley. Go ahead, Brendan.
Thank you. This is a crisis that I've been involved in my previous role as CMOH since 2016, and things have become worse through the pandemic and its after effects. People are grieving, First Nations are disproportionately affected, and communities are disproportionately affected. We need to continue prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and enforcement. What I'm hearing from the communities is need for more capacity for land-based healing, better aftercare and access to aftercare. Rural harm reduction needs to be scaled up. Clinical support and clinical treatment, especially for rural Yukon, needs to be stepped up. We nationally, and I have been an advocate for this, are not meeting the scale of the need, and we need to scale up federally. And this is where we need to have the conversation. Each community also needs to be supported because each community has a different approach and needs a different approach.
During the forum, candidates also addressed everything from land use to infrastructure. Audience members pushed for concrete plans and long-term solutions. In Nunavut, the hamlet of Kugluktuk has had funding for its food voucher program rejected. It made the announcement earlier this week. The program was part of the Inuit Child First initiative, which supports services for Inuit children. Last month, the federal government extended that program for one more year. But some communities say they are struggling to access the money.
There are new operational guidelines for how Inuit Child First Initiative funding will flow. Specifically, there are new requirements for group applications like Hamlet Food Voucher programs, requiring names, date of births, and documented consents on file for each child before applying. So what we know is that at least 6 hamlets have submitted an application to Indigenous Services Canada that meets those requirements, and that the first official denial has been received.
Govinda Pillai says she's witnessed significant improvements in children's health after the voucher program was implemented. Former Nunavut MLA Steve Mapsalak has died. He represented the constituencies of Akulik and Aivilik during the 2nd and 4th legislative assemblies. Mapsalak spoke out about alleged sexual abuse while attending federal day school in Chesterfield Inlet. Mapsalak was a mayor, municipal councillor, and member of the Nunavut Wildlife Management Board. Nunavut's Legislative Assembly Speaker, Tony Akwak, says the community flags of Nauyat and Coral Harbour will be half-masted at the Legislative Assembly precinct.
The claims period for 2 classes in the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement is now open.
First Nations children who were removed from their homes on reserve between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022, and their caregiving parents and caregiving grandparents can now submit a claim for compensation.
There are free supports to help you fill out your form.
And mental health and wellness supports if you need them.
Learn more and submit your claim at fnchildclaims.ca.
The federal election is on Monday, April 28th. You can vote early. Advance polls will be open April 18th to 21st. If you prefer, you can vote at any Elections Canada office until Tuesday, April 22nd, 6 p.m., or you can apply to vote by mail. Check your voter information card or visit elections.ca for all the ways you can vote. It's our vote.
For the official information you need to vote, visit elections.ca or call 1-800-463-6868.
Are you an aspiring songwriter? Do you want your song to be part of Nunavut's cultural heritage? Let's celebrate 10 years of Inuktitut songwriting with this year's themes, Piluk sa Tilunga and Inuit Sanasimayangit. For contest rules and more information about Kilo 2025, visit www.gov.nu.ca. The deadline for submissions is May 5, 2025.
A Yukon real estate developer has released its 2024 annual report. Northern Vision Development outlines some significant projects in the works. Topping the list is the new $50 million Hyatt Place Hotel, which is scheduled to open later this year. In the same downtown block, the company recently purchased the Town and Mountain Hotel. It plans to convert the ground level of the hotel into retail space. The move adds to the company's growing portfolio of hotels in 4 Yukon communities. NVD is also looking at extending its reach outside of the Yukon.
We've long been looking at how do we get outside this market and protect our investors and do it in a place where it plays into our strengths as a company. And, you know, the reality is that it's getting harder to develop in Whitehorse. The relationship with the city has been challenging and continues to be challenging.
Hale says the city's prices and delays in the permitting process drive the cost of development from the early stages. He says Northern Vision Development is looking at investing in communities like Prince Rupert, BC. But he says NVD has no intention of leaving the Yukon. Parking fines were a hot topic this week at Whitehorse City Council. The city is in the middle of changing its traffic bylaw. That means parking tickets are going up alongside a handful of other traffic violations. City staff say the new parking meter fine should be $50 to align with other cities in Canada. That's double the $25 fine that exists now. City Council received a number of complaints from residents, and on Monday night, they were hesitant to vote for the increase.
This is not going to be popular, and this is very hard, and it's not a pleasant thing for decision makers to have in front of us, particularly at a time when people are feeling very stressed with their personal finances and their incomes and their expenses. So I do look forward to contemplating what we can do here. It hasn't been raised in a really long time, as has been pointed out, and that puts us in a tough position.
Councillors voted to lower the proposed parking fines, 5 votes to 2. The amendment set parking tickets at $40 instead of $50, with a $20 discount for same-day payment. The bylaw goes to third reading in 2 weeks. Cutting trade barriers between the provinces has been frequently proposed as a way to deal with the Trump tariffs, and the Ontario government has taken a big step towards that goal. It tabled legislation on Wednesday that it says commits to internal free trade. Jamie Strachan reports.
Few have handled the so-called elbows-up approach to trade like Ontario Premier Doug Ford. The hats, the shirts, now the talk.
With President Trump taking direct aim at Canada's economy, it can't be business as usual.
Now a move to bolster trade within Canada, Ford not looking south but east and west.
We need to work together to build a more united, more competitive, more self-reliant Canadian economy.
The new legislation would lower Ontario's interprovincial trade barriers and encourage other provinces to follow suit. He also signed agreements with the premiers of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick.
We have to seize this moment, we have to act on this moment, and make sure that we open up true free trade across Canada.
This moment driven by U.S. President Donald Trump.
I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary.
His on-again, off-again tariffs have stoked unprecedented economic nationalism.
I think it's really good for the Canadian people to support our local businesses.
We have to do whatever possible to feel really independent.
That's it. Risky. Ford predicts lower costs and more variety, like the ability to order alcohol from other provinces, and for workers in certain jobs to more easily move between provinces. National independence, a key issue in Ottawa as well.
The federal government is leading by committing to legislate the end of all federal barriers to interprovincial trade by July 1st.
It all may make Canadians feel better, but experts warn it certainly won't replace doing business with the U.S.
It may help cushion the blow a little bit, but I think it's maybe being oversold. But I'm all for that in the sense that anything that gets some political momentum to do something good, it's the one thing we have control over.
The question now, whether it catches on across the country. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's first professional women's soccer league has kicked off in Vancouver. The Northern Super League marks a new era for sports. It was built by former national soccer stars. Georgie Smythe tells us about the group's dreams for the future.
The Northern Super League, a dream years in the making, built from scratch by co-founder and former national team member Diana Matheson. She says Canada needed its own women's league to build on past wins and achieve more.
We have the opportunity to build one of the best women's professional soccer leagues in the world. Really, for the first time in the last 5 or 6 years, women's professional sport has been treated like a business, and it's at the beginning. And there's this growth industry that's only going to continue for the next 2 decades.
The league begins play with 6 teams from across the country: Vancouver Rise, Calgary Wild, AFC Toronto, Ottawa Rapid, Montreal Roses and Halifax Tides.
We're very proud that this is a league coast to coast, and it is Canadian.
Soccer legend Christine Sinclair co-owns Vancouver Rise.
Christine Sinclair, player.
And like Matheson, became a force off the field, fighting for years for equality in opportunity and pay for female athletes.
As players, we are constantly told that our compensation, or lack of, was all that Canada Soccer could afford.
Even against the sport's governing bodies. The league's leadership was asked to reflect on the hard-fought battle to get here.
I don't think we're going to let Sink answer that one.
But there's more to do, they say. They want more teams and stadiums to support the league becoming one of the best in the world. Half of the league's players have come from overseas, but all hope to inspire Canada's next stars too.
This means a lot, and I don't think we know how much it means until we actually get started.
There is some poetry to Vancouver and Calgary playing the league's opening game. They were the first 2 teams to sign on and begin this historic league. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Chesterfield Inlet Nunavut officially has a new airport terminal. Territorial leaders gathered in the community for the ribbon-cutting ceremony on Wednesday. MLA Alexander Simuktuk says the new terminal is now wheelchair accessible and travelers don't have to wait for luggage outside.
I am really happy about the new terminal because it has so much more space, there's chairs to sit on, and also wheelchair access is now available, so we are so pleased and proud of the new airport.
The cutting of the sealskin ribbon was followed by a feast at the community hall. Elders encouraged residents to look after the new terminal and avoid any vandalism so it can be kept in good condition for years to come. Staying in Nunavut, Whale Cove's only restaurant is finally back in business. The Tavani Inn restaurant closed when a fire destroyed the hotel in May of 2023. Guy Anuepic works for the Tabani Inn restaurant. He says it's great to have a place where people can gather and have a bite to eat.
Yes, it's open now, and it's so fun to go there now that it's open. There are still some things that have to get ironed out, like the computer, but we have a good cook, so we can go out to eat again.
The restaurant won't be providing a full service, but customers can order food or take out 5 days a week from Tuesday to Saturday. Rankin Inlet's Spring Festival Pakalik Time starts on Monday. The community has organized a week of indoor and outdoor activities. There will be a pond hockey tournament, games on the radio, community feasts, and a square dance. Different snowmobile races will also take place starting on Thursday at Johnson's Cove. Now let's take a look at your weather. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a great weekend.
By voting NDP, you've helped to build this country. Healthcare for families, pensions for workers. And even when we're not in power, do Democrats get things done for people, like dental care? It's because of you. Because you vote NDP, we can make life better for ordinary people, not the billionaires, and stand up to any government that wants to cut the things that we value. Vote NDP and make sure we're there, fighting for our kind of Canada, fighting for you.
Hi, it's Yaya.
Am I a loser?
No job, no home.
No clue.
Really? I need a fresh start.
No.
Hire me. I want to make our community a better place. Sup, kids?
Are you a drug dealer?
Sabrina Soho. Your 6-month probation in serious crimes begins today.
Let's go, sister. Gloves and boots.
Don't discount her instincts. She'll follow them with or without you.
You lied to me. You played me like I was one of your marks.
I could be on the other side of the world right now.
You've gone soft. You need to be focused on the long game.
Who has more fun than us?
Everybody.
The only person you can count on is you, yourself, alone.
stream anytime. CBC News.